both born here at ZooDoo, so I'm going to give them something to eat. Don't be alarmed if you see them having a little hiss at each other or a fight. That's totally normal. Sorry, bud. They will do behavior. So our biggest devil over here is Tempest. He's a bit larger, and our smaller devil over there is Shadow.
Shadow and Tempest. They're fighting for the food. Fight. Shadow and Tempest. Shadow is the little one. Tempest is the bigger one.
But Shadow always gives it his best try, so you're all right, boys. All right, guys. So we have 6 Tasmanian devils here. These 2 boys another product in the same. Because they are a bit smaller at the moment, they don't have quite that sort of jaw strength, but they do have the same jaw strength even at this size as a hyena. So they are very, very strong animals. And when they do eat, they will find a carcass of something, maybe a nice big wallaby or kangaroo, and they will eat the entire carcass. So that is as well as the meat, the bones, the skin, the fur, the teeth, the claws, everything. They will eat the entire carcass. So these guys are really important as basically our cleanup crew in Tasmania. They will go out and find anything that has died and is rotting in the soil. They particularly love rotting meat, and they will go out and basically clean that up. They will eat the whole thing. And that is really important for pretty much all our other species here. So I know a lot of people have heard of like the wolves of Yellowstone. They went out and they returned wolves to Yellowstone Park, and that brought back a lot of the other animals. Tasmanian devils are the same equivalent to those wolves in Tasmania. So if we were to lose our Tasmanian devils, that would change the quality of the soil, because there would be a lot more bacteria in the soil from rotting animals. That would change what plants are able to grow here, and without those plants, that would change what animals that eat those plants are able to be here, and basically would affect the entire ecosystem. So they're really, really important animals for us here in Tasmania. And a lot of people, you know, they're called Tasmanian devils. They make these scary noises. People are quite scared of them. They think they're quite aggressive. These are actually extremely shy animals. So anyone from Tasmania, any locals will know that even though you might hear the devils out in the wild, you're not really very often going to see them. They're very shy, and they will run away way before you can get to them. They have very good sense of smell and a great sense of hearing, and they will hear you coming long before you see them and go off and hide. So these guys are very shy. Now, the reason they are called devils is because when settlers came to Tasmania, they heard all these horrible screaming noises in the forest, and they thought there were demons and devils living here. And that noise turned out to be the sound of our Tasmanian devils fighting over food. So when they saw them, their name sort of stuck, and they became the Tasmanian devils. These guys are very solitary. They don't live together in groups. These 2 boys living together would be unusual in the wild. These guys basically will have their own home territory. They will look for food in that particular area, but those territories do overlap. So sometimes something might die in an area that is covered by multiple devils, and that's when they'll all come together to feed, and that's when we get those typical fighting noises that we'll hear at night. So that is just the devils fighting over food to establish who's the more dominant devil and who's allowed to eat what parts of the animal, same as what we just saw from our devils here. Just because they are solitary doesn't mean they can't live together. So a little bit about the life history of a Tasmanian devil will show that. These guys are born about the size of a grain of rice, about this big, maybe a jelly bean if they're a really big baby. They are basically just a blob with hands and a mouth, and they will all race to crawl up into the mum's pouch. So Tasmanian devils are marsupials. They do have a pouch, and that is where their nipples are, inside the pouch. They have 4 nipples that these babies can attach to. Now, they have 4 nipples, but they'll give birth to around 50 babies at once. Wow. And those babies will race to try and reach the nipples. The ones that make it to those nipples are the ones that are going to survive. The rest of them are a nice little snack for mum to get her energy back up after giving birth. So she will eat the rest of those babies. Wow. So pretty crazy. A great start to life for our Tasmanian devils. The ones that make it up into the pouch will fuse to the nipples, and they will stay in there for a few months until they start to grow fur and start to be big enough to come out of the pouch and eat alongside mum. Once they are big enough to come out of the pouch, they will follow mum around for another few months until she gets sick of them and she knows they're ready to survive on their own. So she will find a nice big carcass, and while they're eating, she will run away and she will leave them all there. These guys are now going to be on their own. They're going to have to figure life out for themselves. I know a lot of parents who really relate to that, wish they could do that as well. So these guys will stay together as siblings for a little bit as they figure out how to look after themselves. And when they get big enough, they will spread out and start to find their own home territories. So the only times you'll see devils together is if they've just been left by their mum. So you've got a small group of litter mates sort of learning to survive on their own. You'll see them together at a carcass if there's a big feed, usually fighting over food, and you might see them together occasionally for breeding as well. But these guys do live most of their lives solitary, and they won't really interact with other devils. Our boys were hand raised, they get on really well, and we're very lucky to be able to keep them together. We did have their third brother Frost in here with them, but they did eventually have a fight, and he had to be separated for his own safety. He kept getting beaten up, so Frost is now in his own enclosure, and he's pretty happy with that. He's not too worried about being separated from his brothers, and we do hope to be able to reintroduce them at some point. Now our Tasmanian devils are pretty incredible creatures. I hope you guys have heard what I've said and you can agree with me, but unfortunately we have lost about 80% of our devil population in the last couple of decades, and that is mostly due to devil facial tumor disease. So this is a really terrible cancer that is going through our devil populations at the moment. It is one of the very few contagious cancers in the world. So contagious cancers only occur in other animals. We very luckily don't have any with people. But these cancers will spread basically when they fight, when they meet up at a carcass feed. That natural devil behavior of fighting and spiting and scratching at each other, that is where they will spread that disease, and that will cause these big tumors to grow on their face and stop them from being able to eat and drink, and they will eventually die of starvation after a few months. It's a really, really awful disease. It's very, very painful, and it just looks terrible. So it's really horrible to see this on our devils, and it is absolutely decimating our devil population. So as I said, we've lost about 80% of them in the last couple of decades, and we still don't have a cure. The University of Tasmania is working really, really hard to find a cure or a vaccination for these guys, and that's why we have them in zoos at the moment. So we have our devils here. Lots of other zoos across Australia and across the world are breeding Tasmanian devils as an insurance population, so that hopefully one day when we do have a cure or a vaccination, we can release our devils back into the wild with that vaccination, and we will have healthy devils that we can send back to try and boost those populations. Now these guys that we have here are part of our breeding program as well. As I said, all of our devils were born here at the zoo. Quake, our female devil, was hand raised by one of our keepers. That did not make her any nicer. She still hates absolutely everyone, including the person who hand raised her. She's a very, very grouchy girl. But really great that we've been able to do that. And we do have older devils now, so we're not currently breeding, but we are planning to revamp our Tasmanian devil enclosures. This whole area is going to become 2 massive devil enclosures, and we'll be able to have a lot more and hopefully young breeding devils come in as well. And we do also contribute to Tasmania University's research here. These guys have all sent genetic samples off to the university to do research on, to make sure we can work towards finding that cure. And to learn a bit more about our devil biology. So that's really important that we're able to help that conservation as well, and to do that sort of research. Really, really cool that we've been able to be part of that. Now these guys, as I said, are a little bit older. Because they are in captivity, I hope to get them up to even 8 years old, which is about the oldest we've really ever seen a devil. These guys are in really great condition. You can see Tempest is a little chunky. That's because he likes to steal Shadow's food. But other than that, they're in really excellent condition. They do occasionally have some bite marks from having a little fight with each other. Something really interesting about devils is those white marks on them. That is where they will get the most bites, and that's because those markings are to draw attention away from their more important organs, so that when they get in fights, hopefully that's where they get attacked, and those are some more places that are a bit less dangerous for them. So that's really where you'll see the most bites on them. And we are very, very lucky to have these guys here and to be able to breed them. So I hope you guys go check out our other devils as well. And you can also do devil encounters, which you can purchase at the front desk, and that is hand feeding, well, using tongs to feed our devil Lightning, who lives up there. He absolutely loves a feed, and these guys are going to be also helped because that 10% of that proceeds from those, well, go ahead, talk for a second. 10% of proceeds from those encounters do go towards our devil conservation as well. So you guys will get to interact with the devils, and you'll also be helping their conservation. So definitely recommend doing that. Otherwise, I'll be here for a few more minutes if you guys have any questions about our devils or any other animals.